The palace burned. Sergeant Marcus Cole pressed his back against the marble wall and listened to the screams. They came from everywhere now. From the grand halls, where he had stood guard for 6 months. From the royal chambers he had never been allowed to enter. From the gardens where the strange alien flowers bloomed in colors humans had no names for. He checked his rifle. 42 rounds. His pistol had 18 more. Not enough. Not nearly enough for what was happening tonight. Marcus was 34 years old. He had fought in 3 wars across 2 star systems before he took this contract. The Valorian Empire had hired human mercenaries for their outer security details. It was simple work. Stand at a door. Look dangerous. Collect payment. Go home. Nobody told him the Emperor would be murdered by his own council. He moved down the corridor, stepping over the body of a Valorian guard. The tall, luminescent being had been dead for maybe 10 minutes. His blood was silver, and it pooled on the white floor like liquid moonlight. More gunfire echoed from somewhere ahead. Then silence. Marcus had been in the West Wing when it started. He heard the first explosions, saw the first squads of black armored soldiers pouring through the gates. The palace guard fought back, but they were outnumbered. Outplanned. This was not an attack from outside. This was a betrayal from within. He should have run. That was the smart thing to do. Find a shuttle. Get off this planet. Let the Valorians sort out their own problems. But then he heard the girl scream. He found her in the private library, hiding behind a shelf of ancient books. 2 soldiers had cornered her there. They wore the black armor of the Obsidian Guard, the Council's personal killers. One of them was reaching for her when Marcus shot him through the back of the head. The second soldier turned, surprised. He died with the same expression on his face. The girl stared at Marcus with wide, golden eyes. She was Valorian, obviously. Tall and thin, with skin that seemed to glow faintly from within. But she was young. Very young. By human standards, she looked perhaps 16, though Marcus knew the Valorians aged differently. She might have been over 100 years old. She wore a white dress now stained with silver blood. Her hands were shaking. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice was high, frightened, but there was something else beneath the fear. Something that expected to be obeyed. Sergeant Marcus Cole. Human. Outer security. He grabbed her arm. "We need to move." She pulled away from him. "Do you know who I am?" "I am Seraphine Velastora. I am the Empress Princess of the Valorian Empire. You will not touch me without permission." Marcus stared at her. Then he heard boots pounding down the corridor, getting closer. "Your Highness," he said, "with respect, they are coming to kill you. Your guards are dead. Your father is dead. The Council has taken power, and they will not let you live. Now you can come with me, or you can die here. Choose." The boots were very close now. Seraphine's golden eyes flickered with something. Fear, yes, but also understanding. She was young, but she was not stupid. "Very well," she said. "Lead the way." They ran. The palace was a maze of burning halls and broken bodies. Marcus had studied the layout during his 6 months here. He knew the service corridors, the maintenance tunnels, the places where the important people never went. He pulled Seraphine through the darkness while killing squads hunted them. 3 times they almost died. The first time, Marcus shot 4 soldiers before they could raise their weapons. The second time, he led them through a ventilation shaft while a patrol passed below. The third time, a soldier caught them in a dead end, and Marcus killed him with his bare hands. Seraphine watched it all in silence. She did not scream. She did not cry. She simply watched with those golden eyes, and Marcus did not know what she was thinking. They reached the shuttle bay at midnight. Most of the ships were already gone or destroyed. But there was one small shuttle in the corner, a maintenance vessel used by the cleaning staff. It was ugly and slow, but it would fly. Marcus broke the lock and pushed Seraphine inside. He powered up the engines while alarms screamed around them. Through the window, he could see more black armored soldiers pouring into the bay. "Hold on," he said. The shuttle lifted off. Weapons fire sparked against the hull, but Marcus was already moving. He pushed the engines beyond their limits, blasting through the bay doors and into the night sky. Behind him, the palace burned like a fallen star. Seraphine sat in the passenger seat, staring at nothing. Her hands were still shaking, but her face was empty. The shock was setting in now. Marcus had seen it before, in soldiers after their first battle. "They killed him," she said quietly. "They killed my father." Marcus did not answer. He focused on the controls, plotting a course away from the planet, away from the patrol ships that would soon be hunting them. He trusted them, Seraphine continued. The council. He trusted them, and they murdered him. They murdered everyone. "Not you," Marcus said. "You're still alive." She looked at him then. Really looked at him for the first time. He was not tall or beautiful like her people. He was rough and scarred, with brown skin and short black hair and eyes that had seen too much death. He was an alien, a commoner, a hired soldier from a species the Valorians considered primitive. And he had just saved her life. "Why?" she asked. "Why did you help me? You could have escaped alone. You owed me nothing." Marcus thought about the question. He thought about the two soldiers reaching for a frightened girl in a burning library. He thought about the choice he had made without thinking. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Maybe because it was the right thing to do. Maybe because I'm not smart enough to run when I should." The shuttle broke through the atmosphere and entered the darkness of space. Stars stretched out before them, cold and endless. "What happens now?" Seraphine asked. Marcus checked the fuel gauge, checked the navigation system, checked his remaining ammunition. "Now," he said, "we survive." Behind them, the planet grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared among the stars. The Empress Princess of the Valorian Empire was now a fugitive, hunted by the most powerful people in the galaxy. Her only protector was a single human soldier with 42 rounds left in his rifle. It would have to be enough. 3 weeks after the fall of the Golden Throne, the bounty was announced. Marcus saw it on every screen in the spaceport. The image showed Seraphine's face, young and regal, beside his own military photograph. The numbers beneath their pictures were large enough to buy a small planet. "They really want us dead," he muttered. Seraphine stood beside him, hidden beneath a heavy cloak. She had cut her long silver hair short, and she wore the rough clothes of a common traveler. She hated every moment of it. Marcus could tell by the way she held herself, stiff and uncomfortable, like the fabric itself was an insult. "The council cannot allow me to live," she said quietly. "I am the legitimate heir. As long as I breathe, their power is built on sand." Marcus pulled her away from the screen before anyone could look too closely. They had been running for 21 days now, jumping from station to station, planet to planet. They slept in cargo holds and abandoned buildings. They ate whatever they could buy with the little money Marcus had saved from his contract. It was not the life of an empress. "We need to reach Nexus Station," Marcus said, as they walked through the crowded market. "I have contacts there. People who can help us disappear." Seraphine frowned. "Disappear? I do not wish to disappear. I wish to take back what is mine." Marcus stopped walking. He turned to look at her, and his face was hard. "Your Highness, with respect, you have no army. You have no allies. You have no money. The entire galaxy is hunting you. Right now, The only thing you can do is survive. Everything else comes later." Seraphine's golden eyes flashed with anger. She was not used to being spoken to like this. For her entire life, everyone had bowed. Everyone had obeyed. Everyone had treated her words like commands from heaven itself. But Marcus did not bow. Marcus did not obey. Marcus treated her like a stubborn child who did not understand the danger she was in. She hated him for it. She also needed him. "Very well," she said coldly. "Nexus Station. But this is not over, Sergeant. I will reclaim my throne." Marcus nodded and kept walking. He did not say what he was thinking, that she would probably die long before she got the chance. They booked passage on a cargo ship heading toward the outer rim. The captain was a fat, greasy man who asked too many questions and accepted too much money to stop asking. Marcus did not trust him, but they had no choice. For 5 days, they traveled through the darkness between stars. Seraphine spent most of the time in silence. She sat in their tiny cabin and stared at the wall, lost in memories that Marcus could not share. Sometimes he heard her crying at night, soft sounds that she tried to hide. He pretended not to notice. On the 4th day, she finally spoke to him. "Tell me about humans," she said. Marcus looked up from the weapon he was cleaning. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. My father." She paused, and her voice became smaller. "My father always said that humans were interesting, different from other species. He said that you achieved so much in such a short time, that you spread across the stars faster than anyone expected." Marcus shrugged. "We're stubborn. We don't know when to quit. Is that why you saved me? Stubbornness?" He thought about it. "Maybe. Or maybe I just don't like bullies. Those soldiers, the council, they were killing a girl who couldn't fight back. That bothered me." Seraphine studied him with those strange golden eyes. "You are not what I expected, Sergeant. What did you expect?" "I don't know. Something simpler. My tutors taught me that humans were primitive, aggressive, emotional. They said your species had barely left your home planet before you started wars across the galaxy." Marcus laughed. It was a rough, bitter sound. "Yeah, we're good at war. Maybe too good. But we're also good at other things. Building, creating, surviving. We've been through a lot as a species. Ice ages, plagues, wars that almost wiped us out. And we're still here." Seraphine nodded slowly. "Perhaps that is why the Council fears you. They have ruled for 10,000 years. They have forgotten what it means to struggle." "Maybe," Marcus said. "Or maybe they just picked the wrong enemy." On the 5th day, the Obsidian Hunters found them. They came out of nowhere, 3 small attack ships dropping out of hyperspace directly ahead. The cargo captain panicked and tried to surrender, but the hunters were not interested in prisoners. They fired on the cargo ship without warning. Marcus grabbed Seraphine and ran for the escape pods. The ship shook around them as weapons fire tore through the hull. The lights flickered. Alarms screamed. Crew members ran past them, shouting in languages Marcus did not understand. They reached the escape bay just as the ship began to break apart. Marcus shoved Seraphine into a pod and climbed in after her. He hit the launch button, and they shot away from the dying cargo ship just seconds before it exploded. Through the small window, they watched the wreckage scatter across the void. "They killed everyone," Seraphine whispered. "All those people, just to get to me." Marcus did not answer. He was busy with the pod's controls, trying to plot a course to safety. They were still 3 days from Nexus Station, and the hunters were still out there. For 2 days, they drifted through space in the tiny escape pod. There was barely enough room for both of them. They had limited air, limited water, limited food. Marcus rationed everything carefully, but it was not enough. By the 2nd day, Seraphine was weak with hunger and thirst, but she did not complain. Not once, Marcus noticed this. He noticed how she endured the suffering in silence, how she refused to show weakness even when her body was failing. She was still arrogant, still proud, still difficult. But she was also stronger than he had expected. "You're tougher than you look," he said. She almost smiled. It was the first time he had seen anything close to a smile on her face since the palace burned. "My father used to say that the crown is heavy," she said. "He said that anyone who wishes to wear it must first learn to carry its weight." I never understood what he meant. Now I think I am beginning to. On the third day, a ship found them. It was a smuggler's vessel, dirty and fast, crewed by people who did not ask questions. They pulled the escape pod aboard and gave the survivors water and food. Marcus paid them with the last of his money. "Next station," he told the captain. "Fast as you can." The captain nodded and did not ask why 2 people were drifting alone in the void with half the galaxy hunting them. As the ship jumped into hyperspace, Seraphine sat beside Marcus and watched the stars stretch into lines of light. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for not giving up." Marcus looked at her. She was dirty and tired and half-starved, nothing like the regal princess he had found in the burning library. But there was something different in her eyes now, something harder, something that had not been there before. "Don't thank me yet," he said. "We're just getting started." Seraphine nodded, and for the first time, she looked at him not as a servant or a commoner or a primitive alien. She looked at him as an equal. Nexus Station was the ugliest place Seraphine had ever seen. It hung in the darkness between star systems, a massive structure built from 1,000 different ships welded together over centuries. There was no law here, no order, no beauty, just criminals and merchants and desperate people trying to survive. For Seraphine, who had grown up in a palace of white marble and golden light, it was like stepping into a nightmare. But Marcus moved through the crowds like he belonged here. He knew which streets were safe and which were dangerous. He knew how to talk to the merchants, how to avoid the gangs, how to find the hidden places where secrets were traded like currency. "Stay close," he told her. "Don't make eye contact. Don't speak unless I tell you." She hated taking orders from him, but she was learning to swallow her pride. It tasted bitter, but it kept her alive. They found shelter in a small room above a repair shop. It was dirty and cramped, with a single window that looked out over the station's industrial district. Seraphine sat on the hard bed and watched Marcus check the door's locks for the 3rd time. "We should be safe here for a few days," he said. "I need to find my contacts. See if anyone can help us get new identities, a better ship, supplies, and then what?" Marcus paused. He looked at her, and for a moment, she saw something like doubt in his eyes. "I don't know yet. One step at a time." For 3 days, they waited. Marcus came and went, meeting with people whose names Seraphine never learned. She stayed in the room, hidden, staring at the walls and thinking about everything she had lost. Her father, her home, her future, all of it, gone in a single night. Sometimes the grief was so heavy that she could barely breathe. On the 4th day, the hunters found them again. Marcus burst through the door with blood on his face and fire in his eyes. "We need to go, now." They ran. The station's corridors blurred around them as they fled. Behind them, Seraphine could hear shouting, gunfire, the heavy boots of soldiers. Marcus led her through markets and maintenance tunnels, through crowds of people who did not care about emperors or empresses or the fall of thrones. They almost made it. A squad of black armored soldiers appeared ahead of them, cutting off their escape. Marcus turned to find another route, but more soldiers were coming from behind. They were trapped. Marcus did not hesitate. He pushed to Seraphine behind him and raised his rifle. "Run when you see an opening," he said. Then he attacked. Seraphine had seen Marcus fight before. She had seen him kill soldiers in the palace, had watched him move through danger with a calm, cold efficiency. But she had never seen him like this. He was a storm of violence. He shot 3 soldiers before they could react, then charged into the rest with his bare hands. He broke bones. He tore weapons away from armored fists. He fought with a fury that seemed impossible for a single human against so many enemies. But there were too many. A soldier's blade caught him across the chest, opening a deep wound. Another blow knocked him to the ground. Seraphine screamed his name, but he could not hear her. And then something happened that she did not expect. The crowd around them erupted. Station residents who had been running away suddenly turned and fought back. Merchants with hidden weapons. Workers with heavy tools. Even children threw stones at the black armored soldiers. The hunters had made a mistake. They had attacked in the heart of Nexus Station, where people hated authority more than they feared death. In the chaos, Seraphine grabbed Marcus and dragged him away. She did not know where she found the strength. He was heavier than her, wounded and barely conscious. But she pulled him through the fighting, through the smoke and screaming, until they found shelter in the cargo hold of a departing ship. The ship launched before anyone could stop them. For hours, Seraphine worked on Marcus's wounds. She had no medical training, only a basic first aid kit she found in the cargo hold. Her hand shook as she cleaned the blood and pressed bandages against his torn flesh. He had lost so much blood. Too much. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Please, you cannot die." "Not now." Marcus's eyes fluttered open. He looked at her, and even in his pain, he managed a weak smile. "Still, giving orders," he muttered. "Yes," she said, and tears rolled down her face. "And you will obey. That is a command from your Empress." He laughed, then coughed, then closed his eyes again. She held him through the night. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, the Empress princes of the Valorian Empire sat in a dirty cargo hold, covered in blood, holding the only person in the galaxy who had not abandoned her. She made a promise to herself then, a promise that she repeated over and over again until the words burned themselves into her heart. She would not let him die. She would not let the Council win. She would take back everything that was stolen from her, and she would make them pay for every drop of blood they had spilled. When Marcus woke the next morning, his fever had broken. He was weak but alive. Seraphine sat beside him, her eyes red from crying and lack of sleep. But there was something different about her now. Something harder. Something dangerous. "You saved me," Marcus said quietly. "I thought I was dead." "You were," she answered, "but I refused to let you go." He studied her face. She had changed in ways he could not fully understand. The frightened girl from the library was gone. In her place was someone new. Someone who had carried a wounded soldier through a firefight. Someone who had kept him alive through will alone. "Thank you," he said. She shook her head. "Do not thank me. You saved my life more times than I can count. I only repaid part of my debt." Marcus tried to sit up, but she pushed him back down gently. "Rest," she said. "Heal. We have a long way to go. Where are we going?" Seraphine looked out the cargo hold's small window at the stars streaming past. "I do not know yet," she admitted. "But I know this. I will not run forever. I will not hide in shadows while murderers sit on my father's throne. Somewhere out there, people still believe in the true empire. Somewhere out there, I will find allies." She turned to look at him, and her golden eyes burned with a fire he had never seen before. "You asked me once why I wanted to survive," she said. "I did not have an answer then. Now I do. I will survive because I must. Because my people deserve better than traitors and killers. Because my father's dream is worth fighting for." She took his hand in hers. And because you showed me what loyalty looks like, what courage looks like. You are just one human, Sergeant Cole, one ordinary soldier. And yet you stood against an empire to protect a girl you did not know. Marcus squeezed her hand weakly. I'm not that special. You are wrong, Seraphine said. You are exactly what I needed. And when I take back my throne, the galaxy will know what humans are capable of. She smiled then, a real smile, fierce and beautiful and full of promise. Rest now, she said. Tomorrow we begin the real fight. Marcus closed his eyes, and for the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to hope. The message came from the stars. Marcus found it buried in an encrypted channel, hidden beneath layers of code that would have fooled anyone less paranoid. It was addressed to the true heir and signed by someone calling themselves the Last Lantern. It could be a trap, Marcus said. Seraphine read the message again. It spoke of resistance, of noble houses that had fled rather than served the council, of soldiers and officials who still believed in the old empire, of a gathering in the shadows, waiting for a leader. It could also be real, she answered. And if it is, then we cannot ignore it. They had been running for 2 months now. 2 months of hiding, of fighting, of surviving by the thinnest margins. Marcus's wounds had healed, but new scars marked his skin. Seraphine had learned to shoot, to fight, to move unseen. She was no longer the fragile princess who had hidden in a burning library. She was something else now. Something forged in fire and blood. They followed the message's instructions to a small moon at the edge of Valorian space. The surface was barren and cold, but beneath it lay a hidden base. Carved into the rock by desperate hands, Lady Vera of House Selene met them at the entrance. She was old by human standards, ancient by Valorian ones. Her luminescent skin had faded with age, but her eyes were sharp and clear. She bowed when she saw Seraphine, a deep bow of genuine respect. Your Highness, she said, I served your father for 300 years. It is my greatest honor to serve you now. Behind her, in the tunnels of the hidden base, hundreds of people gathered. Soldiers in worn armor, officials in civilian clothes, nobles who had lost everything, workers and merchants and pilots and engineers, all of them refugees from the council's purge, all of them looking at Seraphine with hope in their eyes. Marcus watched her step forward to address them. She was nervous, he could tell. Her hands trembled slightly at her sides, but her voice was strong when she spoke. I know what you have lost, she said. I have lost it too. My father, my home, my future. The council took everything from us, and they expect us to break. They expect us to run. They expect us to give up and die in the darkness. She paused, and her golden eyes swept across the crowd. They are wrong. A murmur ran through the gathered rebels. Seraphine continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. I am Seraphine Velastora, daughter of Caltheron, rightful heir to the Golden Throne. I stand before you not as a queen demanding obedience, but as a survivor asking for your help. Together, we can take back what was stolen. Together, we can rebuild what was destroyed. Together, we can show the galaxy that the true empire still lives. The crowd erupted in cheers, but not everyone was convinced. Lord Darien of House Vex stepped forward. He was a tall, proud Valorian with cold eyes and a sneer on his lips. He had brought ships and soldiers to the resistance, and he knew his worth. Pretty words, he said, cutting through the cheers. But words do not win wars. What do you know of battle, princess? What do you know of strategy? You are a child, protected by— He gestured dismissively at Marcus. By an alien commoner. Why should we follow you? The crowd fell silent. All eyes turned to Seraphine. Marcus moved a step forward, but Seraphine stopped him with a gentle hand. She walked toward Lord Darien until she stood directly before him. looking up into his contemptuous face. "You are right," she said quietly. "I am young. I have never led armies. I have never fought in great battles. 2 months ago, I knew nothing of war or suffering or survival." Lord Darien smirked. "But I learned," Seraphine continued, and her voice turned cold. "I learned when I watched my father's guards die protecting me. I learned when I ran through burning corridors while killers hunted me. I learned when I dragged this man through a firefight because he had nearly died saving my life." She stepped closer to Lord Darien, and something in her eyes made him take a step back. "You ask why you should follow me. I will tell you why. Because I am still here. Because the Council sent their best assassins to kill me, and I survived. Because I crossed the galaxy with nothing but my will and one loyal soldier, and I did not break. Because I am the last of the Velastora bloodline, and I carry my father's dream in my heart." She turned to address the crowd again. "And because this man, this human commoner, taught me something that all of you should learn. Loyalty cannot be bought. Courage cannot be inherited. They must be earned every day through blood and sacrifice and unshakable commitment to what is right." She pointed at Marcus, and her voice rang through the cavern. "Sergeant Marcus Cole owes me nothing. He is not Valorian. He has no stake in our empire. But when everyone else abandoned me, he did not. When the galaxy wanted me dead, he refused to let that happen. If a single human can show such loyalty to a stranger, then surely we can show the same loyalty to our own people." The crowd was silent for a long moment. Then Lady Vera began to clap. Others joined her. Soon the entire cavern was thundering with applause. Lord Darien stood alone, his face red with humiliation. But even he could not argue with what he had heard. He bowed stiffly to Seraphine and stepped back into the crowd. That night, the Resistance united under the banner of the true heir. For weeks, they planned and prepared. Ships were repaired. Soldiers were trained. Intelligence was gathered about the Council's movements and weaknesses. Seraphine worked alongside her generals, learning the art of war from veterans who had fought for centuries. But the Council was watching. Archon Mordecai, the leader of the coup, had not become the most powerful being in the galaxy by being careless. He had allowed the Resistance to gather, knowing that scattered rebels were harder to destroy than a concentrated force. Now he knew where they were dotted. His fleet arrived without warning. 200 warships dropped out of hyperspace above the rebel moon. Their weapons charged and targeted the hidden base below. The Archon himself broadcast a message that every rebel could hear. "Surrender the Pretender," he said, his voice cold and calm, "and the rest of you will be spared. Refuse, and you will all die." Seraphine stood in the command center, surrounded by her generals and advisors. They looked to her for guidance. Some wanted to surrender. Others wanted to fight. All of them knew that the odds were impossible. She looked at Marcus, standing quietly at her side. "What do you think?" she asked. He shrugged. "I think they came all this way to kill you. They won't stop until you're dead, no matter what they promise. So we might as well fight." Seraphine smiled. It was a fierce, dangerous smile that her father would not have recognized. "I agree," she said. She activated the base's communication system and broadcast her response to the entire fleet. "Archon Mordecai," she said, "you murdered my father. You destroyed my home. You have hunted me across the galaxy. Now you come here with your army and expect me to surrender?" She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was ice. "I am Seraphine Velastora, and I do not surrender. If you want me, come and get me. But know this, whatever happens today, you will never know peace. You will never know safety. Because even if I fall, there will always be someone who remembers what you did. And they will never stop hunting you." She cut the transmission. The battle for the Empire had begun. The rebel fleet was dying. From the command center, Seraphine watched her ships burn. The Council's armada was too large, too powerful. For every enemy vessel the rebels destroyed, 3 more took its place. The battle had lasted 6 hours, and they were losing. "Your Highness," Lady Vera said, her voice heavy with grief, "we must evacuate. If we stay, we die." Seraphine shook her head. She was tired, exhausted, but her eyes still burned with determination. "There is nowhere to run. They will follow us wherever we go. This ends here, one way or another." Marcus stood beside her, watching the battle unfold on the tactical display. He had been silent for a long time, thinking. Now he spoke. There might be a way. Everyone turned to look at him. "The Council fleet is organized around the flagship," he continued. "That's where Archon Mordecai is commanding the battle. If we take out the flagship, if we kill the Archon, the whole fleet falls apart." Lord Darien, who had become one of Seraphine's most loyal supporters since her speech, shook his head. "Impossible. The flagship is surrounded by 100 warships. Nothing can get through." "Nothing they expect," Marcus said. "But a small team in a fast ship could slip through the fighting while the fleets are engaged. Board the flagship. Eliminate the Archon. Broadcast his death to the entire fleet." The room was silent. "That is a suicide mission," Lady Vera said quietly. Marcus met her eyes. "Yes, probably, but it's the only chance we have." Seraphine grabbed his arm. "No, absolutely not. I forbid it." "You can't forbid me," Marcus said gently. "I'm not one of your soldiers. I'm just a human who made a choice to protect you. Now I'm making another choice. You will die. Maybe. But if I don't go, everyone here dies for certain. You die, and everything we fought for means nothing." He took her hand. "I didn't save you from that library just to watch you burn here. Let me do this." Tears formed in Seraphine's golden eyes. She had lost so much already. Her father, her home, her innocence. Now she was about to lose the only person who had never abandoned her. But she was also an empress. And empresses made hard choices. "You will come back," she said. It was not a request. It was a command. Marcus smiled. "I'll try my best." An hour later, a small assault ship launched from the rebel base. Marcus led a team of 12 volunteers, the best soldiers the resistance had. They were Valorians mostly, but there were others too. A human engineer. A pilot from a species Marcus had never met. People who believed in the cause enough to die for it. The ship slipped through the chaos of battle, hidden among the debris and weapons fire. By the time the Council fleet noticed them, they had already reached the flagship. The boarding action was brutal. Marcus and his team cut through the outer hull and entered the ship's corridors. Immediately, they met resistance. The Archon's personal guard was waiting for them, elite soldiers in black armor, the best the Council had. One by one, Marcus's team fell. The human engineer died covering their retreat from an ambush. The alien pilot was killed holding a doorway while the others advanced. By the time they reached the command deck, only Marcus and 2 others remained. The Archon's throne room was vast and empty. Mordecai stood at the center, surrounded by his remaining guards. He was tall and beautiful, like all Valorians, but there was something cold and dead in his eyes. He smiled when he saw Marcus. "The human," he said. "I have heard so much about you. The savage who protects the pretender. I must admit, I did not expect you to make it this far." Marcus raised his rifle. "Surrender. Call off your fleet. This doesn't have to end in blood." Mordecai laughed. "Blood is all there is, human. Your species understands that better than anyone. You have bathed the galaxy in blood since you first reached for the stars. And now you think you can lecture me about peace?" He gestured, and his guards attacked. The fight was short and terrible. Marcus's 2 remaining soldiers died in the first seconds. He was alone now, facing the Archon and half a dozen elite warriors. They circled him like predators, waiting for the right moment to strike. Marcus did not wait. He attacked with everything he had. He was not graceful like the Valorians. He was not elegant or refined. He was a human being, a creature evolved from apes who had learned to kill with rocks and fire. And he fought like it. He killed the first guard with a knife to the throat. The second fell to a rifle shot at point-blank range. The third and fourth died in an explosion of violence that left Marcus wounded and bleeding, but still standing. The last 2 guards attacked together. Marcus caught one blade with his bare hand, letting it slice through his palm, and used the opening to drive his knife into the guard's eye. The other guard knocked him to the ground and raised his weapon for the killing blow. Marcus shot him with the pistol he had been saving. And then there was only the Archon. Mordecai had not moved during the fight. He had watched with cold amusement as his guards died one by one. Now he looked at Marcus with something like respect. "Impressive," he said. "Truly impressive. Your species is everything they say and more. Violent, stubborn, absolutely unwilling to accept defeat." He drew his own blade, a weapon of ancient design that hummed with energy. "But it ends here, human. You have fought well. Now die with honor." They clashed. Mordecai was faster, stronger, more skilled. He had lived for 1,000 years and fought in 100 wars. He cut Marcus again and again, opening wounds across his arms and chest and face. But Marcus would not fall. Every time the Archon struck him down, he got back up. Every time he was wounded, he kept fighting. His movements became slower, weaker, but his eyes never lost their fire. "Why won't you die?" Mordecai snarled, frustration breaking through his calm. Marcus spat blood and laughed. "Because I made a promise. And humans keep their promises." He lunged forward one final time. Mordecai's blade pierced his shoulder, but Marcus did not stop. He drove his knife forward, through the Archon's armor, through his chest, through his heart. They fell together. Mordecai's eyes were wide with shock as he died. He could not understand how he had lost. He was a god among mortals, a master of war, the most powerful being in the Empire. And he had been killed by a human with nothing but a knife and a promise. Marcus crawled to the command console. His vision was fading. His body was shutting down. But he had one more thing to do. He activated the broadcast system and sent a single message to the entire fleet, to the entire galaxy. "Archon Mordecai is dead," he said, his voice weak but clear. "The Council's leader has fallen. The true heir lives. The Empire belongs to Seraphine Velastora." Then everything went dark. When Seraphine arrived with the counter-assault team, she found Marcus lying in a pool of blood, surrounded by the bodies of his enemies. The Archon lay beside him, dead, his face frozen in eternal surprise. She fell to her knees beside Marcus and held him in her arms. "Medics!" she screamed. "Get me medics now." They worked on him for hours. His heart stopped twice, 3 times. Each time, they brought him back. Because humans are stubborn. Because they don't know when to quit. Because Marcus Cole had made a promise to an Empress, and he intended to keep it. 3 months later, the Golden Throne was restored. Empress Seraphine Velastora stood in the great hall of the palace, rebuilt from its ashes. The noble houses knelt before her. The fleets of 1,000 star systems bowed to her authority. The Council's remaining members had been arrested, tried, and executed. At her right hand stood Marcus Cole. He wore a new uniform now, white and gold, the colors of the imperial house. His title was First Shield of the Empress, a rank created specifically for him. His scars were visible, marks of the battles he had fought to bring her home. An ambassador from a distant empire approached the throne. He looked at Marcus with barely hidden contempt. "Your Majesty," he said, "I must ask, why do you trust an alien with your life? Surely a Valorian guard would be more appropriate for such an important position." Seraphine smiled. It was the same fierce, dangerous smile she had worn in the battle for the rebel base. "When my own people abandoned me," she said, "he did not. When the galaxy wanted me dead, he refused. There is no one in this universe I trust more." Marcus stood silently at her side, but there was a faint smile on his scarred face. The ambassador bowed and said nothing more. That night, after the ceremonies and celebrations had ended, Seraphine found Marcus standing alone on a balcony, looking up at the stars. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. He shrugged. "Just remembering. The library, the escape, the cargo holds and space stations. Everything that brought us here." Seraphine stood beside him, her shoulder brushing against his. "Do you regret it? Saving me that night?" Marcus turned to look at her. She was beautiful in the starlight, her skin glowing softly, her golden eyes reflecting the distant suns. She was no longer the frightened girl he had found hiding behind bookshelves. She was an empress now, powerful and wise and strong. But to him, she was still the person he had promised to protect. "No," he said, "I don't regret anything." Seraphine smiled and took his hand. "Good," she said, "because I plan to keep you around for a long time, Sergeant Cole." They stood together on the balcony, the Empress and her human shield, looking out at the galaxy they had fought so hard to save. The Empire would face many challenges in the years to come. There would be wars and crises and enemies who sought to tear it apart.